I'm a man who can never die.
How's it going, everyone? Dread here. You know the drill by now. We're doing a driving with Dread. My daughter's not very well at the moment, so I'm just off to the shops to get her some medicine and you know, maybe something special for lunch to cheer up a little bit. But yeah, hope everyone's good. Markets are looking nice at the moment, aren't they? We're just going to talk a little bit, maybe talk for like 15 minutes or so, and then we'll wrap it up. No, there's a cat in the road. Move. Oh my god, he was so nonchalant about that. You're going to get run over, mate. Little bastard. Anyway, so markets are looking very good at the moment, aren't they? Looking very green, looking very healthy. I think it's very simple when you look at Bitcoin at the moment. You know, we're on the cusp of the halvening. Whether you think the halving is a meme or not, it doesn't really matter. It's coming, and you know, Bitcoin supply is about to be halved. It's about to be cut in half from, I think it's like 6.25 to 3.15, something like that. I don't actually know. I think it's 6 to 3. That's the main thing. So that's Bitcoin halving is coming. So supply is about to be cut, and with ETF approvals, demand for Bitcoin has gone through the roof. I think we're about 12x demand over supply hitting the market at the moment, which is pretty huge. So the inflows coming into Bitcoin from institutions alone is pretty massive at the moment, and that is why we're seeing the price rise on Bitcoin. And if you think that in 2 months' time the supply is about to be cut in half, so if the demand stays the same, then that should have an even bigger impact on Bitcoin's price. So interesting times, really. We're seeing a pretty impressive move up to, you know, above 50k now with Bitcoin, and we're not that far from all-time highs. We're just not that far. So it's quite interesting, really. And you can see that it's having an effect on the altcoins as well. So I guess the question is this going to last? Is this the start of the bull run? Is this the biggest the biggest bear trap of all the biggest bear trap of all time? I think it's the start of the bull run, personally. I think we've seen enough evidence now to suggest that the bear market's gone. We're in the start of the bull market. That's just my opinion. I can be wrong. I have been wrong many times on stuff like this, but that's just kind of what I'm seeing at the moment. That's how I feel about it all. The liquidity spigots are being turned back on. China are turning the valve on their liquidity, and we're seeing, I think going forward, China are going to have to print a lot. Their situation over there is pretty dire at the moment. The stock market is hitting fresh lows, and I think when you look at the US situation as well, with their debt situation, where they're at $34 trillion now in debt, the interest payments alone on the debt is well over $1 trillion, and they have to pay that. So the only way they're gonna pay that is by printing more money. So we're in a pretty unique situation, really. When you look at risk assets, I think when you put all of that together, you know, there's countries that are going to need to print now. Inflation has come back down. The US have to print. China have to print. Maybe interest rates do come down at some point in 2024. The demand for Bitcoin has increased a lot, and the supply is now about to half. It is all kind of conversion into this pretty unique situation at the moment, and I think that is why we're seeing this move. And if I was to say, do I think that's going to continue into 2024? I think it is. And then I think the beneficiary of that is risk assets. It's altcoins. You know, I've always been a strong believer that you position yourself in the strongest fundamental projects to have the best chance of maximizing the returns in a bull run. And you find those projects in a bear market. That's when you really go to work. You go to work in a bear market. You don't you know, go away for a year and cry, and you fucking get to work and you try and identify these projects that are going to perform well in the bull cycle. So that's always been my MO, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be the best performers. You know, you could have the shittest projects and then it outperforms everything. You know, you can have some meme play like Shiba Inu and it'll just outperform. So I'm not to say that they'll be the best performers, but I think you give yourself a better chance rather than risking it all on a specific shitcoin, and then that's not the one that performs crazy. So that's where I've been positioned, and I think with how Bittensor and Bittensor, I don't know why I call it Bittensor. So whenever I say Bittensor, but I've heard a lot of Americans say Bittensor, and I don't know which is the right way. Anyway, I've been positioned in Bittensor, and it's performed remarkably well recently. I went away to Africa at the start of the year, and the price was around $240. And by the time I came back, it was like $550. So it was a great holiday. Looking at the portfolio rise like that. So Bittensor's done very well this year, and it's done well ever since I've jumped in. At the lows, I managed to get in around, I think my average buy price is like $11. I think my buys are like 5, 6, 11 and 16, I think it is, or 12, 16. But I've done very well on that. But then it's not been straightforward. It's been, you know, we had a big rise up to, I think it was like $30, $40. Then we had another pullback. Then we went up to $110, $120. And then we had a pretty drastic pullback down to 30. So, you know, people may look at it now and say, oh, yeah, you got lucky on that one. But no, we held through some shit, just like I did with Quant back in the day. So these things look great when they're performing well, but I think people forget what you had to do to get to that point. So Bittensor's done very well recently. I think it's been a big beneficiary of the fact that, you know, we've had a very bullish market, and people are beginning to understand the true scale now of Bittensor, and it's really nice to see. I think Kaspa's in the exact same position. Kaspa's was performing way better than Bittensor before Bittensor started performing, and Kaspa's just a continuation of that. It's one of the most beautiful charts I've ever seen in crypto by a country mile. It's just kept its trend line, and it just keeps going up. And I don't think, you know, I don't think that's by mistake. I think when you look at what Kaspa are offering, and this is without smart contracts getting out the door yet, and they can. I saw Unithan say something. This was a while ago, but that they could implement smart contracts right now if they really wanted to, but they want to advance smart contracts in a real meaningful way. Essentially a next generation type smart contract, and do something unique and powerful. That is a big step forward for smart contract infrastructure. So I love what they're doing at Kaspa. I have high hopes. I do think there is something to the kind of narrative around it's silver to Bitcoin's gold, and I think when I look at Kaspa and I look at Bittensor, I see top 5 projects. At the very least, I see top 10 projects. And I was saying that way back when they were outside the 200 range. Now we're in the top 30 range with both of them. I just don't see them not going to top 10 at some point. But again, that's just my opinion. I might be completely wrong on that. But maybe they've topped out now and they're going to have an awful 2024. But yeah, I just think the markets, they look very good right now. And I think you're going to have some pullbacks. You know, whenever you look at the bull markets, you're always going to have these 20-30% pullbacks on Bitcoin, and you're going to have these much harsher pullbacks on the altcoins as the liquidity kind of plays its way through, and then people take profits and emotions take hold, and you're always going to get that. And I think that is what shakes people out of the game in a bull market. So if this is the bull run, which I do believe it is, there's going to be some pullbacks, and we have to recognize that. What we have to look for is a real change in the market structure of Bitcoin first and foremost. But then we're not even really touched on the fact that Ethereum's now going to have this ETF narrative around it as well. So there's a lot of stuff going on really that points to a continuation of bullish price action. Doesn't mean we'll get it, but there is a lot to suggest that it's there. But if we do get that continuation, liquidity as a whole, you can tell what neighborhood I'm in. Can you hear that? Just because you made money doesn't mean you immediately get out of the shit. So, when you're talking about, I lost my train of thought there. Police car. Fuck me up there. What was I saying? Anyway, so yeah, if this is the bull run, which I've been thinking about this more and more, and I was thinking about this a while back. My whole thing was, if we get that ETF approval and institutions start moving in a real way, then obviously the door has been open, the gateways have been open for institutions to now really push into to buy Bitcoin, which affects the entire market. Then you're going to see institutions enter first, right? The people who are used to investing, the people who, have their money with BlackRock and Fidelity and all of these people who are aware of the markets, are aware of what Bitcoin is, they're going to be the first ones to enter. The hedge funds, the likes. The ones who aren't are retail. And I think there's a suggestion at the moment that the institutions are entering the space in a real way at the moment, but retail is not. And I think that's by design. So I think what we're seeing here is the initial push up, and that is from institutions. And I think they recognize that Bitcoin is a finite asset and they need to be involved. They need to have it on their balance sheets. They need to have it in their portfolios. And there's going to become a point where companies and hedge funds are going to need to allocate some to Bitcoin just because of their fiduciary responsibility to their investors. So I think this move we're seeing now is the initial move. And I think it's being carefully pushed. Not to make it sound manipulated. But I think we're very close to all-time highs. And I think once you get past all-time highs, you start to see, that's when basically retail starts to take notice. We had it before when, Bitcoin was down at 3K, it went to 20K, and then, Bitcoin was like 1,000, whatever, it went to 20K, it came back down to 3, and then no one gave a shit until it went back past 20K. Once it went back past 20K, people started taking notice again. And it ain't until you get up to those higher echelons of 40, 50K that everyone starts taking notice, when your nan starts saying, what's this yellow orange Bitcoin thing, and your barber starts saying, oh, do you think I can get involved in that? And that's when you start to realize the mania phase, right? And that's when really you should start looking around and going, well, maybe it's time to get out, because now everyone's arriving at the party. And not to make it sound like you sell to the bag holders, but that is what investing is. That is the game. You buy low, you get out high, you realize and you recognize the time to get out high. So I think what's happening now is we've seen the initial move. And I think once we get that halving and once that plays through, you get minor capitulation, you get a bunch of stuff, and everything recalibrates. I think we're going to see the real push, and then you're going to see retail and, air quotes, normies, begin taking notice. And that's when now they're going to have a very easy way to enter this asset. So I believe that we have a special 2024 ahead of us. Doesn't mean it will happen. I've been wrong about things in the past like this, on the timing of things. And, you know, when, you know, as an example, when Bitcoin went to 69 or 68, whatever it was, and then it came back down to 30, and then we started moving back up towards the highs, I was, like many people, but me, I was thinking we're going to have, this is where the next leg starts, right? We had the 60 down to 30. Now we're back up at all-time highs. Now we're going to push through all-time high. Now we're going to go back up to 100k, and this is the leg that matters. And I was dead wrong. I was dead wrong on that. And you know, hold my hands up. I think people should hold their hands up. People don't do it enough. Yeah, dead wrong on that. Got caught. Held some assets for a pretty horrible period there. Managed to get out around 40k to spare my blushes. But yeah, took some pain on that one. So could definitely be wrong here. It's not to say my opinion holds any fucking weight. But that's kind of where I'm at. I think risk assets and altcoins are going to perform very well in this environment, as they have been. And you know, I like to have a good spread along my portfolio. You know, have some real good performers, and have some decent sized assets. Obviously, when I invested in stuff like Bittensor and Kaspa and Beam, you know, they were way down in the rankings. You know, now they're top 50 projects, top 20, top 30 projects. So, you know, obviously you have to start thinking about profit taking at that point. And if you're not thinking about profit taking, you need to understand where this asset could go. So that's what I've been doing with those guys. I've actually, you know, looking at my portfolio as a whole, and there's, you know, I like to have that spread of, you know, I've got some top 20 projects now, I've got some top 50, but then I have a bunch of projects outside the top 100, I have some projects outside the, you know, 250 to 500, some projects from 500 to 750, some projects that are 1,000 plus, just a good diverse spread among the rankings, and hoping that, you know, they're good performers, and then they can push up into I see it as brackets, you know, if a project's outside the top 1,000, it can push into the top 500, pushes into the next bracket. Obviously that's a very good return. So you know, without going into too much detail about the entire portfolio, but holding stuff like Checked, that I think is going to perform very well going forward, with what they're able to do and complement to AI with this, with their verifiable potentials. I think they're primed and in a great position to perform very well. Someone commented, I can't remember the name, I'm sorry, there's too many usernames, saying that this feels like the quant of the last cycle, and I couldn't agree more. It feels like Checked. People don't really understand what Checked are doing. They don't really understand what they have, and they don't understand what they're building, and they don't understand what they offer. Once you understand it, once you look into it, you do realize that this is severely undervalued, in my opinion. So this is how it was with Quant back in 2018. And they're a rock star team. I like the Czech guys a lot, and I think that they're primed for a big move in the future. That's just, again, my opinion. The fact that we're still around the 10 cent level and still under 100 million market cap is pretty remarkable, to be honest with you, just from my perspective. But that doesn't matter. I've got time. I'll wait. You know, I've loaded up my position. I loaded up more around the 4-5 cent range. So I'm good to just wait on that one. You know, I'll just hold. I've got a big position in Check. It's probably one of my larger conviction plays. So I'm just ready to sit on that one. Wait. Hopefully it does its thing. And yeah. So I'm not going to go through the whole portfolio. No, there's a bunch of positions, you know, a bunch of positions I like at the moment for different reasons. But, you know, Rowan, Fidium and Andromeda, and, you know, I'll hold some Cubic, hold some Space Mesh, stuff like that. But you know, they all different allocation sizing, different reasons why they're in the portfolio, and different time frames. So not to say that I think their order's going to be absolutely home runs, but I think they're good. I think they'll be good performers, and that's why I said at the beginning of this driving with Dread, where I'm not driving now. But I think, you know, you have to you have to understand what you're holding. So yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to say. I should probably get out of the car and go get my daughter some medicine. Hope everyone's well. I did a video recently talking about why I'm going to be leaving this year. At some point, I think people took that as people saw the headline and said, "Oh, he's leaving now." But I was, listen to the video, and then you'll know. But no, at some point it will be this year. I'm not going to rehash it here. Go and watch the video if you want to know about that. If you don't worry about it. I'll be around for a little bit, and we'll see what happens here. So, hope everyone's well. Hope everyone's doing well. And yeah, I'm getting. I actually, to speak on this driving with dread stuff, I recently bought a new car. I don't like to flex, but I feel like there's a reason I should say it. It's funny because I'm in groups with loads of people and they talk about getting new cars, and it was funny. It was an interaction recently, and it was like, they're talking about getting Ferraris and talking about getting Aston Martins and Porsches and stuff like that, and they're putting up pictures of these supercars, and they're like 250 grand and stuff like that. And then I was like, well, I bought a new car recently, and they were like, what is it? And it was like a Hyundai. A hybrid Hyundai. It's like very similar to my car now, but it's an automatic, which is great because I was on holiday and we were driving in South Africa, and we rented the car, and it was this Toyota RAV4, and it was a automatic, and it was lovely to drive. I was like, oh my god, it's lovely. But back home I've got a 2015 Hyundai, and it's, I'm still rocking, money doesn't change a man. I'm still rocking it. I wanted to run it into the ground, but it's manual, and I'm realizing that, like, my left leg, I hate using the clutch all the time, and I have a little pain in the bottom of my back at the left side, and I'm thinking it's just because this clutch is quite harsh. So when we got back, I said to my wife, like, I think it's time. I think it's time we got a car. So we went back to the Hyundai garage, had a look, and it's a very similar car to mine, but it's a brand new one, and it's a hybrid, and it's automatic now, so it's got some nice bells and whistles on it. So it was time that we upgraded. But the reason I'm saying it is because if I do these driving dreads in the future, it should be a lot quieter because it will be a hybrid. So that should make it a lot more enjoyable for you guys, and a lot easier on the ears for you guys listening. So yeah, there we go. We'll speak soon. As usual, you can find me on Twitter, X, in my Discord, and all of that jazz. And yeah, hope you guys are well, and stay safe, and make smart decisions. Think through things, okay? Speak soon.